a lot of traveling to different stores to see products, see what it looks like on the floor, make sure it's our vision, all of these things. And I said to my buyer at the time, these dresses are beautiful, but I can't wear them. And she goes, well, what do you mean you can't wear them? And I said, well, if you look at the mesh, when you put that mesh on, that doesn't go with my skin tone. That goes with your skin tone. And so something as simple as that sparks an idea. That's not inclusive. How do we make the dresses inclusive? So now a girl like me, right? A woman like me can go in that store and feel confident to buy that dress. And it doesn't leave her out. So for me, the reason why I fashion industry. And there's so many ways that you can influence across a company just by being at the table, right?
For someone right now who's listening that may be stuck or feels stuck, and they have these ideas that are lying dormant, what words do you offer them to reignite those passions?
Use me. No matter what your faith is, no matter what your higher being is, ask and call on the universe to use you. Use you to create abundance. Use you to make change. Use you to create conversations that are meant to enlighten and create connective, creative energy around you, right? Use me. I say, Lord, because that's what I believe in, right? Use me, Lord. What does that look like? Today, it may look very different than it may look tomorrow. But if I know that I stay obedient to what that path is, I am going to help someone create an energy that is going to create something else, right? I am here because my God used me to create my other organizations, right? Yes, it's absolutely, there's power in the asking, but there's also power in the listening, and it's power in being still.
Mannequins are made of materials that do not biodegrade. Fiberglass, plastic, styrofoam, metal, these things do not need to be put in the landfill. But prior to us, that was kind of generally what most stores would do. So we make it easy. We make it free for them. I have a network across the country, so I can pretty much recycle mannequins in most major cities throughout the US. I say we average about 300,000 pounds of mannequins every 3 months. I had no idea it had this kind of potential, but I've always been big about how can we repurpose something and create some more value out of it. So that's really what drove me, and making money came along with that. We're gonna be on target this year to reach $1 million in sales.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me again tonight. For anyone who hasn't met me, I'm Carla Nelson, creator of BFW Foundation, that's short for Black Fashion World Foundation. You were just listening to some highlights from Black Fashion Career Day. Event replays are available now, and I encourage you to get them. I am so excited tonight. We're having one of our business acumen conversations, and this is going to be so good. So I just want to tell you, I hope I say her name correctly. If not, we'll correct it when we get her on screen. But we have a wonderful, incredibly talented young lady. We're going to talk about fashion branding, and it's going to be a straight talk. We're going to do it with love, but it's going to be straight talk. But she's been known for working with companies such as McDonald's, Frito-Lay, and many more. So without further ado, I want to welcome, is it Linda Ayowade?
Ayowade.
I'm coming. Oh my goodness, I am so excited to have you here.
This is a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be great. I want to tell everybody, just to give you a little bit of a backstory about how this started. I was talking with Linda, so glad to build a connection with her. There was a connection I have on LinkedIn, and you'll get to hear from her later one day. I'll tell you about that later. But there was a head-turning video that I saw on LinkedIn, and I said, well, wait a minute. I had to go back and watch it a couple of times, and it was Linda who created this video, this wonderful marketing asset. And so in a conversation that I was hosting with her one day, I said, well, Linda, and let me go back a little bit more. this was the situation that I presented to her. I said, I was in an organization once before, and we were using photographers that were building their skills. And with them building their skills, there were some things I didn't notice. My eye wasn't trained to notice it. And lo and behold, a photographer, a professional photographer, we were talking and he started pointing out little things to me. And as he was pointing out those things, he helped me realize the image was completely crooked. And I remember looking at it and saying, oh my goodness, my organization is using this for marketing. And so that was, in the conversation, I didn't give all of that to Linda, but when in the conversation I was saying, Linda, I feel like sometimes, and I'm trying to paraphrase and remember all of it, but I feel like sometimes we don't get our foot in the door because of a lack of, the images are poor quality. So that's a little bit of the backstory behind this. At the same time as we dig into this conversation, I want all y'all to know I'm in this conversation too. Look at my Instagram page; it's a mess. But guess what? It's coming together. It's coming together. But I knew it was a mess. Some people don't know.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a straight talk, no chaser conversation about imaging. And with that said, let's just jump right in. Linda, images, and you tell me she has some images she's gonna share with us, but what are opening the door versus closing the door image? Am I on the right path in thinking that sometimes my imagery is just like, no, I'm not, no.
Oh, it's definitely a good question, and I think it's something that a lot of people struggle with these days. And I think it's because you're right about the training of the eye. Sometimes we know something's wrong, but we can't really put our finger on it. And then there is that lack of knowing where to go when you can put your finger on it. And I think a lot of the problem is having the right resources and understanding
Absolutely.
that there are different levels and tiers to how you need to present yourself as you grow as a company or organization. By the way, I wanted to give a shout out to Stephanie Matthews. She was the one who did those amazing photos. So yes, I did the video, but her photos and her photography is stellar. Like it made everything I did pop. So,
and you know what? That's good, because that's awesome, because definitely Stephanie is somebody, female fashion photographer, Black female fashion photographer. We don't have a lot of female fashion photographers, especially of African American descent. But what I wanted to pull out of that, so thank you for saying that, is the fact that her image, what you started with, the quality of what you started with, and how much of a difference did that make for you in doing your job?
It makes a world of a difference. One thing I have realized is that people go cheap in some areas and then they go expensive in other areas and then wonder why it doesn't come together. So I've seen people get amazing photography and then the person who's doing their graphics or branding is very poor and they just get subpar, or they have amazing person doing their graphics, but the photography that the graphic designer is working with is just not there. I'm so sorry. Someone's knocking on my door.
Because see, that's because we're supposed to have this conversation. But if you need to stop and go, that's okay. I have some things I can share.
Okay, just give me just 1 second.
That's fine. Because see, this is how it happens. If anybody was online with me 2 Saturdays ago when we were having Black Fashion Career Day, we were hosting a conversation with Lita Genevieve. I know I'm probably saying it incorrect, out of Africa. And matter of fact, I have to share some clippings of that conversation, but it was a very good conversation. And some of the things that she needed to share, the enemy was getting involved. So you know how that goes. And then this is the life that we have. We are at home now. We are broadcasting in our own studios at home, and things happen. So such is life. I do want to remind everybody that you can get those broadcasts. Linda, this is okay. Look, it's okay. This is life. This is how it goes. But we'll go right back in.
Yes.
So we were talking about how sometimes people, they'll they'll scrimp and scrape. Lord, this is the country coming out of me. Scrimp and scrape.
I am from Texas. I'm very country, so you have
South Carolina.
no apologies here. I come straight country, so you're good.
So yeah, how do people scrimp and scrape? That's one of those sayings.
Yes.
So it's like what you said. We're not judging anybody, but we know oftentimes, hey, me included, we start out where we are.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're saying too is, those are some of those important pieces. How they might not spend as much on the photography as they do on the video.
Yeah.
If you get a bet, you know what? Let's pull up an image now as one of them, just as an example.
Yes. So this is what it's not bad. I think this is what a lot of times we're used to. So we get something off of Canva, and use some of their templates, and we have like maybe a facial cream that we're trying to sell or some kind of product. So we just get a basic design and we just toss it in. But what we don't realize is that a lot of the quality of the designs, especially of free applications, tend to be on the lower tier of advertising. Sometimes we try to jazz it up, and the truth is you get to a point where you need a professional. I mean, it's kind of like a lot of us can cook at home, but if we're having a party, we may need to cater it out. In a business, you kind of get to that level. There are people who are operating on a creative level where they can do things themselves, but you get to a certain point where you need to give it to a professional. And when you're using free platforms like Canva and others like that, if you were doing an ad, it would look like this. But, and I don't know if you could bring up the next ad. When you're wanting to do it on a more professional level, it needs to have this type of feel. Both ads are communicating the same words, but this an ad that looks like this is magazine ready, is billboard ready, is more on a professional end because of how the typography is being placed, how things are positioned. Same pictures, it's basically the same elements, but it takes a professional eye to understand how what's the difference between something that's appropriate for my industry at my level versus just, okay, let me just do an ad and it's whatever. One thing I've noticed about just business in general, we don't realize when we're growing. We understand that we're growing, but not in the creative branding level. So we tend to keep our people or graphic designers or methods that worked when we were just starting out, when we're now producing, 6 figures or 7 figures within our business. And then we're noticing that, hey, we're hitting a plateau with our clients. Nothing's really moving. And a lot of the times, part of what makes it not move is that visual element, because there are online, people are very aggressive visually with how they display, products, but fashion specifically. People are very aggressive, especially on the higher end of the industry, because eyes are hard to grab these days. So if you want to invest in taking your brand to the next level, the look of your brand needs to reflect whatever you're bringing to the table. So if you're saying, hey, I have gowns that I sell my gowns at an average of $1,000 a piece or $300 a piece or whatever it is, then whatever look you have on social media, on any kind of visual display, needs to look like your gown should cost that much, or people after a while are going to think you're overcharging, even though you're providing a great product. Yeah.
Wow. Whoa. People are going to think you're overcharging, because of how that marketing piece looks, because that marketing piece doesn't match what you're offering.
Yes.
So that marketing piece is that central point that really conveys that story and solidifies or justifies the pricing you're asking.
Exactly. And I'll tell you something else that people don't know. And I've seen a lot of designers bump into this, especially people who are using old school methods of advertising. They say, oh, this person's outfits are not as good as mine, but they're still selling better than mine. Or this person's product is not as good as mine, but they're selling better than me because their packaging is better, their advertising is better. Everything that they do to present is better. So they're able to charge for a less, a product that may be subpar because their presentation is good. Most people buy emotionally and buy based on presentation than the actual product itself these days. So presentation is key.
You got me. See, I just had some brands that just ran through my mind. The first one being Fiji water.
Yeah.
Like I will buy Fiji water just because I like the way the bottle looks and the colors.
Exactly.
So, wow.
Yep. And it's all psychological.
And the colors.
Yep. Oh yeah. Voss
Like-
water. I mean, come on now. The bottle, they designed it that way. It's water, for goodness sake. I mean, how many flavors can water actually have while still being water? Think about it. After a certain point, you're selling that bottle, you're selling you're selling an emotion.
Right. So how are they using the advertising to invoke that emotion?
There is psychology behind advertising. I mean, people know about it. They hear about subliminal messages and things like that, but it's a lot deeper than that. There's psychology behind color, typography, placement, where your eye is drawn to. Professionals know this. I'm not talking about your roadside graphic designer or somebody that just picked up Canva or Photoshop 2 weeks ago. I'm talking about people who are actually educated in how these things work. Right. Those designers that are operating at that level, they understand what's going to get people to respond to an ad. They know the type of ad that's going to draw, clients' attention. That's actually, and I'll tell you, I'll give you a small backstory. That's part of the reason why I started to actually cater to startup businesses, mom and pop shops, people who had potential to become multi-million-dollar brands, but weren't there yet. I saw when I was in school, through the grace of God, I was a part of watching and submitting things to Target when they were going down back in the early 2000s. There was a time where Target and Kmart, I mean, literally, they were about to tank. And Target actually went around to colleges at one point in time and were soliciting us for like marketing campaigns and how to kind of change their brand around. And I was shocked. I saw some stuff that I submitted and I'm like, hold on, this is what we were just working on. And I'm seeing Target and all they're saying is, congratulations, thank you for helping us. You've submitted this stuff. And I don't know if they did a brain drain sort of thing, but I saw some of the stuff that we were working on in my department, like in Target's branding. And wow. I realized something. The reason why Target was able to survive is because they changed their branding strategy. So instead of competing with Walmart, they became a whole nother brand. They're like, hey, yes, we sell things like Walmart. We're a retail store, but we're Target. Now, Target, that little, lingo was actually created by clients, but it was through the branding strategy that made people say, okay, this is the upscale version of Walmart. So now, and also Target started to embrace smaller businesses. So they started to take on mom and pop shop. I was literally, I was a part of it. In essence, our school was a part of it. And watching that made me say, hold up, if Target can do this on this level, what if a mom and pop shop has this same access? What they would be able to produce the same results that Target is doing. Like this same formula can work for smaller businesses. And I've been blessed. I've worked with companies, and I mean, they've gone from selling things in their home to becoming multi-million-dollar brands. It works just the same, but it's that education. And that's actually where my passion comes from, to educate people like, hey, there's a formula to this thing. It's not just, okay, hey, I have a great product. Let me just get some, random graphics person. I'm going to put it together. Or I'm going to just go on Canva and just throw some stuff. No, there is a strategic strategy behind making your brand grow, especially past a certain point these days. And you have to be, you have to bring your A game when it comes to your branding. Yeah.
Let's talk about, this is so good. Wow. Let's talk about the components of good branding. What are the components of good branding and brand identification?
That is very good. So one thing I believe in is that you have to have a vision for your brand. Your brand has to have its own vision, its own personality. Think of it like a person that you're building. It's like, what kind of person would people like to talk to and interact with? In many ways, a brand functions like that. And I tell people, like, the best brands are brands that are not looking to sell something to you, but are looking to help you according to whatever gift their brand is bringing to the table. Because when you're concentrated on helping people other than making money, you actually make more money, but now you're building brand loyalty and you're building customer loyalty within what you're doing, because your goal is to help people versus just make money off of them. So it's, hey, I'm a designer, talking about fashion. Hey, I'm a designer, but I want to make sure that my outfits are not just cute, but they're comfortable. So I'm going to make sure that the lining underneath the outfit is something that, even though this dress has a lot of sequins, they're not going to feel it like it has a lot of sequins. It'll still hug the body, but it's done well. And then you make sure that after you've made this amazing dress or amazing product, now you communicate that within your branding. So it's not just, here's the pretty dress. Now it's, here's the pretty dress. Let me show you the inside. It's lined this way to make sure that you're able to enjoy, this dress. And then you make sure you make commercials that show the movement of that dress, that it still functions like the ones that don't have as much lining and padding, but it still does. It still holds the figure. You want to communicate that and show a lifestyle of whoever you have in your commercials or your ads in a way that lets them know, okay, they're trying to help me. They want me to look fabulous and they want me to be comfortable, versus here's a pretty dress. We want you to buy it for a crazy amount of money, if that makes sense. So
it does.
Yeah, that I think that's actually what I can't even remember the first question, but basically I hope that helps.
Yeah, very good. Talking about the components, what are the components of good branding? And I think you really just answered it, really, I think. But are there certain
That's things? One of them. So I will say this starts with that vision. And now it's making sure also that you have the right team in place to carry out that vision. So make sure you have a photographer that knows how to make your clothing or your product or whatever your advertising look good. Make sure you have a videographer that's able to capture the story of your product and really show how that product actually works and functions in a visual way via video. And then you also need a branding team. So this part is the part that a lot of people miss, because they're just like, I have amazing photos, I have videography, let's put it together. Branding and branding strategy, which is crucial, brings that story together in a campaign form that carries out whatever the goal is. So that is the graphics, where it's going to be placed, how it's going to look over time. What are we communicating? You know, if somebody else takes on this project, do they know the color schemes? Do they know, the typography that we're using, the fonts that go with this particular ad or campaign or our company? That component of it is very key. All of those things functioning seamlessly together actually is what puts somebody in a position to have a good brand, and also to really advertise their product in the most effective way. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, because
Okay.
basically, I know this is a clip I gotta share.
Okay.
Things aren't functioning together. Slow down. So if those things aren't functioning together, if I'm understanding correctly, the 9 times out of 10, when they're trying to present it to, say, this designer is trying to present their brand to a buyer to place it in a store, how is that affecting that?
Oh my goodness. Literally, having that is the difference between your clothes being in the store or not being in the store and looking exactly the same. That's what's really sad. A lot of these stores who are retailers are looking. I mean, basically everybody knows the pandemic really showed the death of malls. And what is keeping malls and other places of business, brick and mortar stores alive, is the eye-catching ability inside that store. Their advertising ability inside that store. If you're not Target, Neiman Marcus is not going to do your graphics for you. All these stores out there, I can't even think of names right now, Macy's or whatever. They're not going to do your advertising for you. They're not going to make all those displays that you see in the mall, where when you go to the Estee Lauder table and you see all of their stuff looking fabulous together. That is Estee Lauder that's taking care of that. If Vera Wang has a certain section in the store, Vera Wang is taking care of that branding. She's making sure that section looks nice. Like when you see creative designs inside the store of a brand, it's that brand that's bringing that to the table. And if you make a Neiman Marcus job harder, or if you make a store that's carrying your brand harder to advertise, or you're making their store look bad because your stuff doesn't look good, they won't even look at you twice. They'll just say, "Oh, okay, thank you for coming." Or if they really like your clothes, they'll tell you, "Come back to us when this is fixed." Yeah.
Woo! This is why we call it straight talk, no chaser, because we need to have these conversations. I'm looking at the time because God knows I wish we had more time.
Oh my gosh, it is.
We might have to do a part 2, but that's it in a nutshell. How can someone look? I got all these questions. We just diving right in.
Oh,
But
girl, I'm so sorry.
No.
I should have done the short.
No. This is what you apologize for nothing, because this is why we're having this. See, y'all have to understand. This is just how Linda and I talk. So it's just natural. This is how we go. So bump the questions, because the questions are coming out. This is the thing. You said so much in that. I know, oftentimes, most times, 90, probably 90, 75, I'll say 75, 85% of the time, we as people start out where we are. I know when I started, and as I said, anybody join early, so you'll know, so you don't go look at my Instagram page and say, "What's she doing?" Look, I'm a work in progress. I'll admit it, but I will go to professionals and say, "I need help." But anybody starting out might not have, working on a shoestring. What are some things that they can do to, I know when I started out, fonts, I didn't know anything about the fonts matching.
I understand.
You know, it was a board member. Thank God for her. If she's listening, I won't call her name. I don't know if she wants me to, but she was like, "Look at your logo," because I have the inside, and she said, "Look at how playful it is, and look at this, and look." And she taught me about telling the story. So
That's good.
what are the key things that someone starting out, and again, you've said a lot, but on a shoestring, you know, what do they need to think about, and what are some tips that they can use to brand, you know, their identity, their image in a professional way to try to get that door open versus closed?
I will say, look at who is in your industry. I don't like to use the term competition because I don't believe there's any competition within your calling. Look at other people who are called to a similar position, and look at the ones that you admire. And then figure out what you admire about them and see the difference between where you're at and where they're at. Most of the time, we get our answer in just that alone, being able to do an honest evaluation of where we are and where we want to be. So that's the first step. And then the step after that is getting resources that you can afford at that time that put you on that trajectory of getting to that place. So don't just put stuff out for the sake of putting stuff out. If you need to save up and slow down, because I think sometimes we are aggressive in business in a negative way. We're just like, this has been on my heart for so many years. I got to start now. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Don't be so in a rush because you're scared somebody else is going to come out with the idea. If you're called to do it, you're called to do it. Your gift will make room for you. So understand that timing is all in God's hands, and he's going to make it work out. But anything worth doing is worth doing well. It's like you got to count the cost before you build the house. If you want a nice house, put that foundation there. Save up so you can invest well. Don't just think, let me get out. Start well. And if you need to save up, save up. That's okay. And another thing I was going to say, I actually started a website because of this actual problem called the Posh Savant.
Which is y'all have to, Lord, y'all tell me how to spell. I'm gonna put it in the chat because y'all have to check this out.
ThePoshSavant. The Posh Savant.
.com, right?
.com, yes.
Y'all have to see this site. It is fab.
Oh, thank you. On this site, this right here, I'm sure like our average flyer costs $65. That if you were to go to someone who's a professional or, an average graphic designer, if you ask for a flyer, it would cost you about $65 or a little bit more. It would cost about that range. These are Canva templates that are professionally done. These are actually Canva templates I've created myself. I have over 15 plus years in the industry. So all of them are operating on a level that is magazine ready. Canva on its own does not do that. And the average Canva template you'll even find on Etsy or some other place is not going to be on that level. By God's grace, I will be adding more industries to that store. So anybody within any industry will have more than enough tools and resources while they're growing to have access to proper graphics that doesn't cost them heaven and earth. And when they're ready for a brand strategist or a team of people who can help their vision come to life in a bigger way, at least they would have started using this and they'll be on that trajectory before they're able to afford the professionals.
And speaking of that, let's show some more of the images.
Okay.
Like this, talk about these images.
Yes. So this is actually a fashion show I worked with in 2000. I started working with them in 2011, or it's 2012 actually. They showed me things from 2011. That's what they showed me. But then they told me their vision for their fashion show. And then what you're going to see
Okay.
on the screen is what we created. So, and by the way, yes, that is Yvonne. I'm sure you guys probably noticed that's Yvonne from Insecure. Yeah, she was actually one of the hosts for the show, but uh, at that time, this is before Insecure, but and she was an amazing host, by the way. But yeah, we started to work on the brand and make the brand vision look more commercial friendly. They started to get brand sponsors that were bigger, and the brands trusted that, hey, they're going to make us look good on their platform in this fashion show. So we created a magazine to go with the fashion show. Everything that was done was a strategic plan, and it was themed out to achieve a certain result. And when you're operating in branding in general for your company, that's the level you need to be on. Not just, hey, make me a flyer, but hey, I need a strategic system that is creatively designed to achieve a certain result. And that's actually what we do in my company, and provide resources that can help people in that way. But yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Anybody, as the time is, this is so good. If anybody, I know there's a delay. So if anybody has questions, go ahead and drop them into the chat so we can see them in a few moments and I can share them with Linda. How can, clearly a brand that you're presenting something to has an eye for these things. They've developed their eye. They know what to look for.
Mm-hmm.
How can we, me included, how can we kind of sort of develop our eye to, I mean, you've given us a perfect example,
Mm-hmm.
but is there anything else that we can do to make sure, based on where we are as we're growing,
Mm-hmm.
that we're really putting our best foot forward in our imagery?
Mm.
Is there a way we can, because I hear, let me go there. There are a lot of different things going on. There's a lot of fashion shows. There's a lot of, casting calls. And I hear people saying, bring me these high definition images. And some of them aren't really high def.
Yeah. Very true.
How can somebody pick up on, okay, let me stop. Let me go back. How can somebody do an audit on themselves? I mean, you mentioned looking at a brand that they like.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm asking this question again and trying to drill in a little bit more is because, there's a saying I have, sometimes people do wrong so long they think it's right.
Okay.
So sometimes people are so used to, and their eyes are so accustomed to doing it this way, and they think it's right. They might not necessarily pick up on what is better.
True. Honestly, I'm really old school in my method. And if you really want to train your eye for, especially in fashion magazines really help to train that eye, because you understand things on print level. Print level, to print something and it be crisp is a lot harder than to put something on a screen. And I don't know if anybody out there knows this term, DPI. Your screen definition of an image is very different from print. And so many people are so used to phones and computers that they don't understand, if it looks good on your phone and computer, it may not look good on print. So by the time that thing becomes a billboard or becomes a magazine ad or becomes a flyer, it doesn't really have that sharpness. And if you train your eye with a magazine, and I think magazines honestly are best, because that has a lot of ads, and it has, especially for people within fashion. If you look at fashion magazines and let your eye be trained by that, and then you compare pictures that you have to a magazine, that's going to help you a lot better than you comparing it on a screen. Because I think a lot of people get pictures from photographers that are already low resolution and they don't look good. If you have a magazine, you can compare not only the look of the resolution of the picture, but also how are they placing the model? How are they showing the outfit or the bag or the accessory or whatever they're doing? But magazines are the way to go. Train your eye with magazines. Yeah. Sounds simple, but I mean, it really makes a difference.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are there anything as far as branding when we talk about the websites?
Ooh.
Go ahead, let it all out.
A lot of people, their problem with their website is not the website itself, it's the graphics on the website. So in most of those, because people use like things like either Shopify, Wix, WordPress, a lot of people have these hosts. And they're like, well, I have the same host as someone else. This person has a Shopify site and I have a Shopify site and theirs looks amazing and mine looks terrible. Or, they have a Wix site and I have a Wix site and it doesn't look the same. Or I have this. It's the graphics. If you can invest in someone to make you some stellar banners for your site and get nice product photography, that will change the same website you probably have right now from okay to a stellar website. Literally, that's what makes the difference. How's your photography? How's your graphics? How are your banners? If that is here, then your website goes here too.
So would you say that when you're talking about investments for your branding, how would you rate them? Like what should be, I think I know, but what should be top priority and then come down?
Okay. When you say, help me out, sis. When you say rate them, help me understand.
So like, what are the things they shouldn't scrimp and save in? What should be top, look, if you're going to spend your money, put your money in imagery. If you're going to, how would you rank those in order what you should spend the money most? I know that's hard.
Photography is probably number one, especially for fashion. For anything, I would rate photography probably the highest. And right after photography, branding, a brand strategist, advertising agency. For me, I'm a brand strategist. I think next you need somebody to do branding. Now, within that, videography does come in too. But if you don't have someone who's helping you with your branding and putting that together, you can have great photography and videography, but it won't do anything for you if you don't have a strategy. But those are the top: photographer, videographer, and then a brand strategist.
Okay.
Yes. That can provide creative services again. Not just, it helps if they can or point you to someone who can provide professional branding services on the creative end.
And when you say creative, you're referring to like the graphic design. Okay.
Yes.
No
penny pitch on that. Creatives are not what they were 10 years ago. Some people are like, oh, that's just we're used to starving artists. And, we're used to brushing aside creatives and not paying them much because, anybody knows we have access to those tools. When you're dealing with it on a professional level, that's like a doctor. You wouldn't go to any roadside person who said, hey, I'll do your surgery for you for $15. It's on that level.
Ooh. Yeah. I'm gonna let this simmer for a minute. This is so good. Wow. Let's see, looking at the timing. Someone who started where they are might not know. What are some recommendations you give to them? You know, one of the things I put down is in this conversation, and you've already shared that why your brand might not be getting the attention it deserves. What are some steps to breathing life into that brand?
I think number one is, are you just trying to sell something? Most of the time, the problem is forgetting why you started in the first place. When your priorities are off there and you're just trying to sell, all you're thinking is money. And most people end up penny pitching because they're thinking money over purpose. When you're thinking purpose over money, you will invest properly. You're not going to go for subpar things and okay things. You're going to say, okay, that's not going to help me be able to help people well. It's just like someone who's making clothing, specifically in the fashion industry, you know the type of fabric that's going to break down over time. You know the type of fabric that is cheap. You know, you know if you're going to charge a certain price point and deliver a good product where it needs to be. In many ways, thinking of your purpose and why you created your brand helps you in those decisions. Like, let me make sure my product is good. And then if I'm helping people, that's going to help you price it well, where you're not trying to overcharge for something or undercharge for something because you know the purpose of that product. And then after that, diving into those other areas that we talked about. So getting those other resources to communicate that vision. But I think the number one is that, not forgetting why you're doing what you're doing. Yeah. I hope that helps. I know that's probably a cliche answer, but it's true. It helps you invest properly when you think that way.
No, it's knowing that why, that purpose is everything. I'm reading a book now for anybody who wants to read it called 3 Feet from Goal. And what is consistent throughout, and I've just gotten started with it, is that purpose.
Yeah.
It definitely makes a difference. This has been, thank you so much for just being straightforward, because somebody needs to hear this. I know some people will catch the replays. What is the profile of the client that you work best with?
I would say I work best with people who trust what I've done. And I understand that trust is something that's built, but at least started on a good foundation of, I've seen your work and I like what you do, and I trust that you're going to deliver that for me too. It's kind of like leaving your, people who leave their child at a good daycare center. And I'm not talking about the bad ones, but a good daycare center. Uh, they are not like over the teacher and saying, okay, are you making sure Timmy has his cookies and his snacks for today? Are they're not staying there. They're dropping them off because they trust that, hey, I am dropping my child off with safe people. And I know when I come back, my child is going to be a better person because I dropped them here. In many ways, that's how I look at it. Like, I want you to know that your brand, I understand, is like your baby. When you bring your brand to me, I look at that brand like it's my baby too, and I want it to succeed. And you came to me because there's something, not saying that you're a bad parent, but there's some things that parents can't teach kids. And there's some things that no matter how much you love your brand, you still need a professional's help with that brand. And just under that understanding of, I care about your brand just like you do, and my goal is to make sure that your brand succeeds, and please let me help you succeed. That understanding being mutual, oh my goodness, the creative juices just, I think those clients tend to enjoy my services the most. Yeah.
Well, with that said, I want to let everybody know, if you want to follow Linda, her Instagram handle is at the bottom of the screen. In wrapping up, this has been very good, very good. Um,
Thank you.
this is, the passion is there. You really care about seeing people shine.
Thank you.
In closing, food for thought. Well, you've given us a lot about what we need to think about. A lot. I'm gonna listen to this a couple of
I was
times.
like, I hope it wasn't overwhelming. Oh,
No. It was very straightforward, very easy to understand. So I'm gonna be getting out some fashion magazines. Trust me.
it makes a world of a difference.
I'm about to get out them fashion magazines. Words of encouragement for somebody who, they might feel, oh my gosh, I don't have the money, I'm starting out, but you've already given us tips. Words of encouragement, food for thought for anybody. And as I say that, you said something else earlier too. You mentioned sometimes people don't know. I don't remember exactly how it was said, but some people don't realize that they need to grow. So, any final thoughts that you want to share with us about the branding, about that starting out, consistent growing, and reaching that pinnacle?
Oh, I will say, I will repeat this part. There's no competition within your calling. No, if God has called you to do something, He's going to give you a gift to go with that thing, and your gift will make room for you. So never be afraid that, oh my goodness, someone's going to do it better than me. No, He has clients for you, He has people for you specifically. You don't even have to look at somebody else who's doing exactly what you're doing and be jealous or feel like, oh, they're ahead of me. No, the biggest thing is to know that you're called. And once you have that security that, hey, I'm called to do this, then know that the other pieces will come together. Also, don't be afraid to invest in excellence. I think some of us are become penny wise and pound foolish when it comes to how we invest in the beginning. We use the term startup as a means to downgrade on excellence when we know we have spent a lot of money and wasted a lot of money because we're not thinking doing things in excellence. And if you see your brand as a big brand, invest in it as such, and I'm not saying like spend all your money and that's an investment. No, you can waste money. There's a difference between an investment and wasting money. So when I say investment, I'm talking about something that's going to propel your brand forward in that vision that you have for your brand, for your company. So not just throwing a lot of money into things, but investing money into the vision. Um, and the last thing I would say is prayer to be surrounded by the right people to not only be able to give you candid advice, but also that you have the ability to receive. A lot of people see that someone's business is not that great, but they're afraid to tell them because sometimes we're not ready to receive that, our stuff doesn't look that, it's not there, and just knowing that someone loves you enough to tell you that, hey, I think you may need to invest in this area, and being surrounded with people who will be honest with you and not trying to break you, but are telling you, hey, you wore these clothes when you were 4 years old and now you're 7, 8 or 9, 10 years old, you've grown. I think you need to upgrade your wardrobe because the pants are a little tight, the shoes kind of got those holes in it, they talking to you, just people that you would listen to. Yeah, I hope that helps.
That is perfect. Oh my goodness. Everyone, I want to thank you for this incredible conversation, listening in. For all of those who are going to be listening later, Linda, you are a blessing. So thank you very much. And with that, everyone, we are going to sign off. And until the next time, bye.
See you. Bye.